All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers at The Athletic, and today we're here to talk about race number one of round three of the NASCAR playoffs. I am here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where I've just seen Kyle Larson sweep both stages and go on to win the race and secure the first invitation to the championship four. Not exactly a surprise, Jordan, but I think there was a handful of drivers you thought could have maybe done had a performance like this today. Larson certainly among them, and he is able to go get that done.
Yeah, no surprise, man. We both had him in the championship four. It felt like he was gonna win one of these races to punch his ticket. I think going into today's race, I think there was probably 4 or 5 drivers that you felt like had an opportunity to kind of win the race today. And we saw that kind of materialize throughout the race. Some surprises though. We really didn't see Denny Hamlin too much of a factor. Yes, he finished in the top 10, but kind of a quiet day. Martin Truex Jr., weird day there. Tyler Reddick I thought he was getting much more of a factor today than what we saw, and it never materialized. But ultimately, it was what we thought, which was Kyle Larson. This is the Kyle Larson show, and a dominating day. Wins both stages, wins the race, and punches his ticket. And now this is going to get talked about a lot. We've talked about it a lot. This is such an advantage to win this race and to focus forward now on Phoenix and basically just say whatever happens the next 2 weeks doesn't matter to us. We don't care because we're looking at Phoenix. And I think that is such an advantage. And this team, I think, is really, really well positioned now to win their second championship in 3 years.
Well, you would think that, right? But what I heard in the tone of the post-race press conference was, I felt, decidedly different than what we heard from Joey Logano and his team last year when this happened, right? Because we all have talked about how Logano, like, they're just like, hey, we're going all in on Phoenix at this point. Like, it doesn't matter what else happens. But both Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson come into the media center afterwards, and they're like, you know how intense Cliff is, like,
Sure.
on it all the time, right? They want to go to Homestead and continue to, like, crush people. Larson said he wants to
Yeah.
win both stages by 15 seconds. He wants to win the race by 30 seconds. Then they want to go to Martinsville and have a great run there. The way Cliff was describing it, he didn't make this baseball comparison, but it's very similar to what, if any of you have been following the Major League Baseball playoffs, and you've seen all these top teams get booted one after another. The playoff format in baseball recently changed to where the top seeds have a longer layoff, and these teams that barely got in who have still been playing every day, they have been knocking out these top seeds. And a lot of the baseball experts are saying, well, baseball is sort of a rhythm game, and for these top teams to, like, have a layoff, even if it's 5 days or something, and then try to go back and pick up that intensity where other teams have been playing all along, perhaps that is a disadvantage in some ways. And so it sounds like from Cliff Daniels' perspective, he's like, we want to be on it and matching their momentum because these other guys are going to be going hard still. We want to be doing that the next couple of weeks. So I'm sure that they will focus on Phoenix. I'm sure they will put it in their simulator and think about that. But it sounds like they also have every intention of going out and continuing to perform at as high of a level as possible.
And I get that. And both things can be true, though, right? Like you can still go to Homestead and prepare for Homestead and say, hey, we're going to go there. We want to continue this. And yes, there's something to be said for that and momentum. I'm an analytics guy, but I do believe that momentum actually has a place and it can carry you forward. But also, it's not just Cliff Daniels and that 5 road crew. It's the guys back at the Hendrick Motorsports facility who, too, also can say, hey, we don't need to we can kind of start focusing a little bit on Phoenix more than we would otherwise. It's making sure everything is buttoned up, and maybe if you have an extra 5 minutes in your day, it's not saying, hey, I'm going to go work on the Homestead car. It's I'm going to go maybe spend that 5 minutes and kind of look forward and at that Phoenix car a little bit and see what we can do there. So I get it, and he's right. I mean, you want to go there, and if you can knock out somebody one that you're racing against for the championship and prevent them from winning at Phoenix and make them have to go to Martinsville, that's a big advantage. That's a huge advantage, and I think there's something to be said for that.
But okay, let me ask you this though. There's only so much simulator time that all these teams get from the manufacturers, right? Hendrick certainly is going to get plenty of simulator time, but are you telling me that you're fine with them going, Yeah, you know what? Let's use a chunk of our simulator time on a Martinsville and a Homestead. I mean, in some ways, wouldn't you rather, at this point they're in. So wouldn't you rather them just be like, hey, we're just going to put every time we go to the simulator for the next 2 weeks or whatever, we're going to put Phoenix in and that's all we're going to do. Like, wouldn't that be the advantage you want to take it, as a result of this win?
I would, and talking to Paul Wolf last year, and it was the same thing of, hey, we can kind of focus now on this. We don't want to disregard. There is something to be said though for wanting to keep that momentum, keeping operated, knowing how to operate under pressure. But you're right. I mean, if you can do that and start doing laps and start preparing and start kind of experimenting a little bit and saying, hey, now we've got the time to try this a little bit. And it's not necessarily taking your entire sim session. Let's say you get an hour of sim session, right? It's maybe taking 15 minutes of that and saying, hey, we're going to dedicate that towards Phoenix, and that other 45 is going to be towards Homestead. I mean, if I'm the crew chief, I know where my focus is. I don't care about these next 2 weeks. I care about Phoenix because that is what matters. But it's really hard to tell guys like Cliff Daniels, who's a little intense, of saying, "Hey, you basically got to write off the next 2 weeks," because I don't think it's not in their DNA to operate like that.
Well, and that's what I think you hit on it right there, because, and I would be the same as you, right? Like, looking at this from a broad competitive standpoint, I would say, all right, screw the next 2 weeks. I don't care if we run 20th. I don't care if we are even finish on the lead lap. And that's for those guys to worry about. I don't care. I'm worried about Phoenix 1000%. That's all. And then when we get there, those guys, yeah, sure, they will have been in a more intense playoff mode, but we have had all this time to think about what we're going to do, think about our game plan, run through every possible scenario, be completely prepared. And I'm sure they still will be, but that's why I wouldn't. There's only so much time in a week. There's only so much time in a day.
Sure.
So, but you nailed it in that Cliff Daniels doesn't have another gear, right? Cliff Daniels is intense to the max all the time, and that he expects every one of his team members to be like that. He expects his driver to be like that, and that is their marching orders. And let's not forget, they've done this before, right? Yeah. Larson won this race, as you pointed out a couple of weeks ago, when I was talking about Logano. Hey, this is the Logano plan. When you said, well, don't forget, Larson did this in 2021. He won the first race of the round, and obviously intense Cliff was there and made sure that they were going to be prepared. And they had their 10-win season and rolled. But still, I just, and again, I'm not a crew chief, but I think I would just be like, look, man, I'm going all in right now. Like, I'll worry about the intensity, and my team will naturally be ready when the championship comes. I'm not worried about that. I would just be like, whatever, like all in on Phoenix. But again, like this, it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, because that doesn't sound exactly, they have the same opportunity as Logano, but it's a little bit different path. So
yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Yeah. And again, if you can go to Homestead and win that race, and you can prevent someone else from locking in, it's gonna make them sweat even more at Martinsville. And if you can make guys uncomfortable and put guys in uncomfortable spots, and then maybe you catch a break in a Byron or a Hamlin, the guys that you think you're going to have to race the championship, if they're not punched in at Martinsville and something happens, they may end up dropping out. So, if you can put the screws to them, absolutely do it. But I don't know how much prep you need to do at Homestead either, though. I mean, this is Kyle Larson at Homestead. We know how good he is here. We know the 5 team is going to be competitive there. It feels like they could show up in a shopping cart and run top 10.
Well, overall, what an incredible week for Kyle Larson. I mean, as if we didn't, think that this guy was a generational driver already. Let's look what's happened in like the last 5 days or whatever, right? Tuesday night, he goes and he wins the championship of the new high limit sprint car series, which he co-owns and co-founded this year. No cakewalk, by the way. I mean, like, Rico Abreu was running really well toward the end of the season, gave him all he could handle, but Larson ultimately wins it. I believe that's Larson's actually first sprint car championship, at least sort of like at a national level. I know it wasn't like a full season. They have an abbreviated schedule, but still. Then, he just, casually dips into Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the first laps in IndyCar, smoothly goes out, easily does the rookie required test that they have there to get ready for the Indy 500. wanted to go even faster and, had no issues there. And if you were worried that, hey, that might be a distraction, like, why is he doing this in the middle of the playoffs? Oh my gosh, like Kyle Larson, shouldn't he be worried about the NASCAR playoffs? And he's dipping over to Indy in the middle of the week for a test and this preparation and sprint car racing. Nope, no worries. Just goes to Vegas, sweeps both stages, and wins the race. So, that's sort of an exclamation point on Kyle Larson for you. As Tony Kanaan said at Indy this week, one of the best driver of his generation, perhaps, and just we just there's just really nobody in American motorsports that can really do what he's doing right now. I mean, it's just the multidiscipline stuff and competing at a top level and all of it is just pretty astounding, really. I think we take it for granted, but it's astounding.
Yeah, I mean, he makes the extraordinary seem ordinary, and I think that's the best way to say it. And I think you go back to 2021, and that was a stupendous year, right? I mean, he did you could win, he won everything you could win. It felt like, and then last year, kind of, it's really weird to say this, and it's going to sound bad, but it's almost felt like a little bit of a letdown. You know, it wasn't like he had a horrible year. He still was in the NASCAR championship. He won races, or playoffs and everything, and won races, but it wasn't like this world dominating year. And I think this helps serve a reminder though of just what he is, and he is a once in a generation talent. We seem to use that word a lot, but this is guy whose talent, it doesn't matter what he gets into. He is really great. And it's unbelievable that he can hop in anything and be competitive. And when this was announced that he was going to run in Indy 500, I know you and I talked about it, and it's like, listen, him going there and winning the race, like that, I mean, a lot's going to have to fall right. But it's still in the realm of possibility. You know what I mean? Like, you can't dismiss it because he is that talented. He is somebody who can elevate everything around him and the team and put them on a higher plane. And what he does, whether it's a stock car, sprint car, midget, whatever, it's incredible. It really truly is. And you'd love to see more guys push themselves and to try to do this and to go outside their comfort zone, because it's really, he could fail, he could embarrass himself, but he doesn't care. And I think that's the remarkable thing to me, is that he's willing to do this and put himself out there. And if he fails, it's like, so what?
I think part of the thing about Larson is too, he's so sort of unassuming and just low key.
Yeah.
There's nothing flashy when he comes in or when you talk to him. He's just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, like that's just how he starts a lot of his answers, just very chill. And it just doesn't like jump out and grab you, right? But he's also sort of like, if you're a race fan and you're just looking for sort of like the most pure racer, like you don't care about, it's not about the personality stuff, it's just about the racing, right? Like, he's your guy, because he's like, there was a fan at the tweet up today, who's a listener of our podcast, and I think his name was Seth, I think he said, and he was decked out in Larson gear, and he said the reason is because Larson came and raced a sprint car at his home track in Central California, and they never get any NASCAR drivers out there, and it was like, wow. And he was so impressed about how Larson waits around after the race for all the fans and patiently takes pictures and signs autographs and is dedicated to sort of like growing motorsports as a whole, and dips into these faraway places that don't have the glitz and the glamour of Las Vegas, and is able to spread the racing gospel, so to speak, in a very low key way. But like, that is very, for hardcore racers and race fans, a lot of people judge their drivers, their favorite drivers, off personality and stuff. Larson's, again, he's not going to be like, whoa,
No, he's a common man. He really
Yeah.
is. He relates to the common fan, and there's been a disconnect on the NASCAR side from NASCAR to grassroots for a long time. It's gotten much better over the last few years, but he's a throwback. I don't know how else to describe it. He is like a Bobby Allison or something like that, who would just go on a Tuesday night and run in the middle of nowhere and do it very unassuming. Not because he's getting paid or no appearance money and all these things. It's like, he's doing it because he wants to. He does it because he loves it. It's like, that's what he is. And that's the essence of Kyle Larson. And there frankly isn't too many drivers like him. I mean, even beyond the talent and everything else, it's the want to. It's the randomness of, hey, I'm going to go to some middle of nowhere dirt track in wherever and run, and I'm going to be happy and want to be there. Like, there ain't many guys like that.
Well, another one somewhat in that vein, is a driver from Oklahoma named Christopher Bell.
He doesn't get to showcase his ability.
Well, I'm not saying that. I mean, yeah, that's been the side stuff has been tampered a little bit, but he came up the same way as Larson. In some ways, Larson paved the path for him,
Sure.
because Larson was a Toyota driver. He was driving a midget, and he got away from Toyota. And ultimately, when it came down to it, when Christopher Bell was sort of like the next guy up, Toyota was determined to not let another potential star get away. And Larson, even his press conference today, referenced it. Like, I feel in some ways a little bit responsible for him getting the cup. And that's not like a brag. That is factual. Like, Toyota decided to go all in on Bell and put tons of resources directed toward him to make sure that they had a ladder, and other young drivers following suit now, because they let Larson go get away, right? So, but those guys have had so many battles. I mean, I've gotten to go to a couple Chili Bowls where they absolutely put on an unbelievable show, going head to head. For a while it was Bell beating Larson, but until Bell came along, a lot of people don't remember, in dirt racing, like Larson, he didn't really have to push himself that hard. Like, he was sort of just unmatched, especially in midgets for a while. And then Bell came along. He was sort of the first guy to really push Larson, and it made Larson find another gear. And they had some amazing battles for a while. There was the notable time when Bell was trying to track down Larson at the end of one Chili Bowl, and just overstepped it after this classic race, and just tumbled, in trying to catch Larson. And then, they had their incident in NASCAR, and they sort of had some bad blood for a little bit a couple years ago. But you could see the respect level has returned, and they raced hard, cleanly, fair, I thought, at the end today. Bell obviously really upset that he wasn't able to track down Larson in his final laps, beating himself up afterwards, saying, what could I have done differently? But, I thought that part was really cool racing, that here's two grassroots guys who, were racing against each other long before anybody really knew who they were on a national level. And they're able to take that and come right into a huge spotlight of the NASCAR playoffs and do the same thing. So that was pretty cool. And, Bell, I thought, put on a great performance today as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what he thinks about when he looks at the tape, and what could he have done differently. And it's really hard to nitpick. There really isn't a whole lot you can say what you could have done differently. The only thing I think of, and this is really, it's Monday morning quarterbacking, 2020 hindsight, is maybe just commit to running that high side coming off of 4, and not trying to, Larson kind of came up on him a little bit, but just, I'm up here. I already claimed the high line. If you're moving up on me, then you're moving up on me, and you're going to take your chance. And he gave Larson the room, or Larson cleared him by just enough, and then Bell tried to come to the inside, and it wasn't enough. That's the only thing you could maybe quibble with, is say that, hey, if you just stay committed that high side and you force Larson to make a decision, what can you do? But I don't know. Even then, it may not have been enough, because I mean, it's not like the start finish line at Las Vegas is way down the track. I mean, it's pretty quick off of turn 4, so it's really hard to poke holes in what he did. But this was a good day for him, good points day for him. Going to a racetrack now, we talk a lot about Reddick and Larson and how they're so good at Homestead. Bell's in that same category as well. These next 2 races at Martinsville as well, they set up really well for him. He's got to be really happy with where he's at, because he's not playing now. He's leaving Las Vegas, as opposed to a year ago when he was in a huge hole. And now he can actually just kind of race and just kind of be a normal operating thing, and not having to come, from behind.
Yeah, I mean, he was already, trying to run through his head on pit road afterwards. He was getting all the questions. Well, what could you have done differently? Because naturally he's saying, well, I'm going to be replaying this and all this stuff. And so people were asking him, well, where could you have found more speed? His thing was like, I mean, a tenth to lose by a tenth of a second over a 30-lap run. I mean, there's a lot of times where he could have found a tenth. But one part that came to mind for him, he said, was he was trying to lap a couple of the Rick Ware cars, the 15 and the 51. They were running side by side they were running in front of him, and then they split right when he got to them, I think.
Mhm.
And he decided to follow the 15 down low, and that bottled him up for a second, and he lost a bit of momentum while he was trying to track Larson down. And by the time he regained it, that was like a little bit of loss. So he was saying maybe if he could have split them somehow and not followed one of the cars through, he wouldn't have been able to. He would have been closer to Larson at the end to try to make that move. So, it's just, that's the kind of stuff that happens though when you have all these other cars in the playoffs, right? I mean, that's part of lap traffic, is part of it. And, that can add up to make a difference. I thought it was really interesting too, just on another note real quick. Larson had this great point that for some reason I had not thought of, at least in these terms, until he said it like this. But he was asked about the intermediate style racing with the next gen car, why it's so good, right? Like why it seems so compelling. And he was talking about how, like, because you and I were messaging about it yesterday, right? Like Riley Herbst wins the Xfinity race by 15 seconds, like just pummels everybody. Car gets out in clean air, he's gone. He is absolutely gone, right? And when he had an advantage, he might have a 3-4 tenths advantage, but when you're out front that long and you're just lap after lap and there's no cautions, you're just pulling away, right? And that is how the old car used to be for Cup, right? And that's why intermediate tracks weren't very popular, because it was boring. And you wanted stage cautions. You wanted something to happen at places like Las Vegas. People were just like, "Ugh, this place." Now you come here and you're like, "Man, this is probably going to be a pretty good race, or a competitive race." And so Larson was saying that part of the reason is when the leader gets out front in clean air, it wears their tires so much more, the clean air, that it ends up making them loose. And he said, that's what I was struggling with at the end when Bell's catching me. It's, yes, they have clean air, but it's also sort of a penalty to where they're using their tires more. And they get so loose that they can't get away. Like the second, third place guy end up catching them. And so it's so much harder as the leader on these intermediate tracks in the next gen to sort of defend that. And I thought that was really interesting. And he said he didn't mean it like this, but he said that he thought NASCAR ended up doing that by accident, which is probably, I'm sure, true. Like they didn't mean to like be like, all right, let's design this car and we'll have the leader's tire wear out in clean air. That's not part of it, but the unintended consequence of that is that these tracks put on really good racing consistently, even as people have, year two is almost wrapped up on the car now. I think we're still seeing compelling stuff at Las Vegas. I don't know what you thought of the race. I haven't asked you, but I thought it was good. I mean, I thought it played out straight. I wanted to see strength on strength. I wanted to see the best go at it with no funny business, just straight up. And I feel like that's what we saw. I mean, what did you think of the racing?
It was fine. It was perfectly acceptable. It wasn't what we have normally seen on intermediate tracks. I mean, particularly like a Kansas or Charlotte or thing like that. But it did have a little bit of ebb and flow. It got different guys kind of assert themselves at different points. Guys could pass. We saw Chastain come from the back. We saw Hamlin come from a mid-pack starting spot. We did see Truex kind of fight and claw his way up there a little bit at the end. You were able to see that a little bit. It was good. It played out a lot of an old school way, kind of like you said, kind of a natural way. We had some pit stops and you had, kind of strategy a little bit. It wasn't a barn burner by any means. The last few laps were great. I mean, seeing Bell and Larson and Bell track down Larson was fun, but it didn't have that same feel like a Kansas where you really felt like these guys were on the total edge and like they're, riding that knife and how they do it, with the exception of Larson off of turn 2 there, which was an incredible save, by the way. It was fun. It was fun. It was what we thought it was going to be. This was a track that allows the best drivers and teams to shine, which is at this time of year in the playoff is what you want. And you want the best of the best to have a platform to showcase their abilities and why they are championship worthy. And we got that today. We got the 5 teams showing that. We saw that from some other guys as well. And that's what you want. And I think that delivered that. And wasn't an amazing race. It's not going to be a race you're going to go like, oh my God, this was the most incredible races. But again, at the end of the day, we got a pretty good natural finish. And I think that's what people are going to remember the most about this.
Well, and again, that obviously anybody that's listening to the podcast, that's what I want to see at this point, right? Like, I want it to play out naturally. I want to see the best go at it. And as you said, I think we got that today. All the playoff drivers, finished in the top 11 or something?
Yep. Top 15 or something.
Top 15. So, I mean, that's really like, that's what I'm looking. No, at top 11. All
11,
eight
okay.
playoff drivers are in the top 11. Yeah. So, it's like, I get that people might say, oh, nothing really happened. There wasn't the drama. There wasn't some crazy moment. I am not looking for that at this point in the year. I wouldn't have, if had there been, some wacky thing happen with like 3 laps to go and ruin the Bell Larson battle, and then they pit and restart, and the top 3 crash and somebody else wins, and you're just like, geez. I mean, I get that's racing, things happen, but this is, I'm looking to see who sets the championship field. Everybody has their, no Vegas pun intended. Everybody had their cards on the table for this race. Nobody's holding anything back. Nobody's being like, all right, we'll try these setups.
Come on, you keep using some more Vegas puns. This is good.
People are going for it, right?
They're
So
gonna double down.
they're going all in. So
Put my chips on the table.
But that's what I'm looking for, right? So I think we got that today. I'm certainly not going to sit here and be like, well, that wasn't satisfying, because that's what I was entertained all day by wondering, well, what's going on with these playoff guys? I mean, Truex was one of the stories of the day, right?
Ooh.
Like, because none of the playoff drivers really blinked today. Nobody made like a huge mistake driving wise. I don't think any of the playoff drivers got a speeding penalty, right? Not that I could think of. Nobody spun out and had to overcome something. Nobody, like, they all executed for the most part. Truex's team put him in a bad spot because they made a pit call that obviously didn't work out, staying out on older tires. It was only 9 or 10 lap tires or whatever it was, but that just wasn't the right call, and they lost a lot of track position. But even then, he's able to come up through the field and he ends up finishing 9th. So, I mean, it was a heck of a comeback. But this is, again, I want to see this for 2 more weeks. I don't need any of the funny business. I just want to see it. And I listen, I get that, people. I know your team chaos, Jordan.
Team chaos. You want drama, though. You want drama. You want guys to have adversity and overcome things. And everything just kind of felt like it held serve today.
Well, Truex overcame something.
Yeah, it was fine. But you want more of that, though. And you look at the point standings, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, you get 5 guys that are, real tied up, and then the other 3 are kind of, there's a little bit of gap there. And it was fine. But is this a race, if you're a casual fan, is this a race that is gonna like capture you and be like, oh, this was good. This is intense. This is what I want.
Why is everybody always worried about the casual fan? This is
Because
the
you have
playoffs.
to grow the sport.
Tune in for some other races. Tune in for the Chicago Street Race and the Daytona 500 and the zillion super speedways that everybody has now. Why does everybody? This is the playoffs. This is to decide the champion of the sport that goes down in the history books. And I think everybody should strive to have it as reputable as possible and as much credibility as possible, which I feel is what you're seeing right now with races like this. You want to go chase the casual fan, that's fine, but I don't think people need to worry about that at this point. This is for the fans that have watched all season long and now want to go, all right, who's the best? Who's really the best? Let's see it. Larson today made a big statement that despite his up and down season, they could have won God knows how many more races. But and they came in at a deficit to playoff points compared to the other top contenders, but he's able to go out, do what he needed to do, have the performance, and they move on. So that's, again, like, what's wrong with that? I mean, wouldn't the casual fan appreciate that?
I think it's fine. It's a perfectly acceptable race. And if you're watching this, yeah, you saw, like I said earlier, you saw the best rise up. This was an opportunity for them to showcase themselves. But you do want to hook fans. You do want to hook non-fans or whomever that are tuning in and saying, what is that, what is that human drama there? What is something that's going to hook me? What's going to sell me? What's going to make me want to tune in next week?
Why can't you sell, hey, see this guy who's like very unassuming and just looks like a totally normal dude? Yeah, he's like one of the greatest race car drivers in American history. He's going around and he's doing all sorts of stuff in all sorts of cars, and he's able to get to our championship race and lock in a spot. And guess what? You get to go see if he can still try to achieve greatness as we fill out the rest of the championship field with other of our most elite top drivers in the series. Um, I mean, is that not why can't that be a selling point? I guess.
You can try it, but I'll ask you what happened after 2021. Did Larson move the needle? Did all bunch of people tune in
I don't know
after
that
this?
he was marketed that way.
Oh, yes, he was. He won all sorts of awards, and he won. People were saying that he had the driver of the year, and I, I'm I have to go back and look, but he won all sorts of awards. People were saying that this is an all time great season, across the board, all of that thing, and it's like I don't think people. I think people look at it and just shrug their shoulders. Unfortunately, it sucks. I don't disagree. You want to see greatness. You want to see someone performing at the highest level possible. But I don't think that people are looking at this and saying, "Oh man, I don't." I think if Kyle Larson walked down the street, I don't think a lot of people are going to recognize him.
Well, I mean, that's not his fault.
I'm not. I'm
I
not
don't
saying
think.
it is, and I want to make sure I'm not saying it is his fault.
So let's talk about some of the other people. As you said, we both had him in our final four. Um, Other people we had in our final four were William Byron and Denny Hamlin. We both agreed on that one, right? Is that right? Oh no, you didn't
Yeah,
have Denny. You didn't have Denny.
I not
You had
originally. I
Bell.
think I may have circled back on him. I've changed my picks like 7 times, so
Okay.
it changed. I mean,
Well, anyway, we both had Byron, and I think it's fair to say we both probably would have expected a stronger day out of Byron, who ends up
yeah,
finishing seventh. Um, that was a weird one for me. They were talking in the broadcast early about how, like, don't worry, he's kind of fading, but the team is confident in their long run speed. And then they didn't have that long run speed. Like,
no,
and Byron was very concerned after the race about, like, this was pretty surprising. Remember, this is a guy that dominated this race in the spring. Now, he did say Saturday that, they came back with a completely different setup, because that setup, it's evolved too much. That wouldn't have worked to just try to replicate that. But, he's like, we got to figure out what happened there, because we just didn't have that. So that was a little bit weird, because, it's like, hey, wait a minute. Now, we were all building up Byron as like a championship favorite type of guy. He just wasn't, it was a fine day, but he was never like, all right, yeah, this guy's gonna. Did he lead a lap? He led one lap today. So that's not. I don't think that's what you wanted to see if you're him. He's still in decent position. Of course, he's second in points, the top guy in points without a win. And what is he,
plus nine,
plus 9 to the cut line? I mean, that's
plus
not a
nine.
very big cushion at all. Then Denny Hamlin, he obviously, like, listen, if you heard him on his podcast last week, he's like, yeah, we don't usually we don't run great in practice and qualifying necessarily at Vegas, but we build up to it. And that's exactly what happened, right? Like, he qualifies 15th, but he starts moving his way up, and, he gets up to the top 5, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's what's going to happen. And he ends up, he led 23 laps, but at the end, like the last run, he just sort of faded. He said his handling went away, and he lost a couple spots in the restart, got too tight, and they were just never able to do anything. 10th place is not what I would have thought out of that team today. I thought top 5 for sure. And it seemed like they had a top 5 car, but, not finishing off the race really hurts him, because now he's only +2 on the cut line. You're looking at Hamlin and Truex filling out the final 2 spots. They're both +2 over Bell, who scored a ton of points. And as disappointed as Bell was, as you mentioned, he's very much in the mix now. So, how do you look at that JGR trio there, where at the moment it seems to be 3 drivers battling for 2 spots?
If you're Christopher Bell, you're leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, would have loved to have gotten that win and punch our ticket to the championship 4. Didn't happen. Still feeling really good. Martin Truex Jr., I think you're frustrated because it appeared at the beginning of the race you had a top 3, 4 car. You were certainly in the mix. Yeah, I don't think he was as good as the 5. That were on another level, but you were in a really good position to get a good top 5 finish. First of all, also stage points. That's the big thing is stage points. And you didn't do that. And you had to scratch and claw and fight to get back in the top 10 after a strategy call that frankly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We saw the difference. We knew what the difference was in tires when the 20 and the 19 stayed out 6 longer laps in the first green flag run. And we saw the difference in timing there. And that was huge. And I just didn't understand why staying out on old tires there. That's a losing proposition, and it almost bit them bad. And they left here 2 points to the good. They've got to feeling pretty good about that. But when is this team going to put together just a normal race, like just a quiet, like right in the top 10, got stage points? Maybe we're in the mix for the win. Like it just feels like every single week this team is always having to figure out or overcome something or other. It's just like it's a lot. But again, they're still good. They're up 2. They're going to a racetrack. He almost won it last year. He's won it before. They've got to be feeling good about that. But again, just clean races. And then Danny, I think you leave here you're concerned. Like what happened? Why we finished 10th. That's not what we wanted. We thought we were gonna be better than this. And now when you look at the point standings and the situation we're in, we're only up 2, which means that if something happens the next 2 weeks, we could potentially be in a world of hurt. And there's no cushion. And it felt like you can kind of control your destiny, and they still can. I mean, they go out win Homestead, they go out Martinsville. It's 2 good tracks that team, but this just feels like a missed opportunity for them to kind of continue to do what they've done throughout the playoffs, which is assert themselves, establish themselves as a team to beat, and let everybody know, like, hey, yeah, the 5 was great today, but the championship still is going to go through us. And I feel like, honestly, it's shifted dramatically where Kyle Larson feels like everybody's gonna be chasing him now, and the 11, the 19, the 24, they've got work to do.
Yeah, I can't really argue with any of that. I think the Truex 9th place is so weird, right? Because you're relieved that it wasn't 20th where he was running for a while after he kept losing spots on the restart. But at the same time, they just to take yourself out of it and cough up points. That's got to be so frustrating, right? Like, and they did get their first top 10 in the playoffs, but it's just got to be like, man, like, they tried to make a move and it was early and it just didn't work out. Obviously, the 2 tires seemed to work fine, but no tires.
To me, it's like it's really easy to be Monday morning crew chief, but in that situation, when tire wear is a factor, it's just like hold serve. Just do kind of what everyone else is going to do. Continue to maintain track position. You don't need to be jumping guys and trying to gain a bunch of spots at that moment. Just like, let's ride it out. We're in a good spot here. Don't take a shotgun and aim it at your foot. And that's kind of felt like what they did at that point.
So behind them, you had Reddick, who, Reddick won Kansas, right? And you come to Vegas and you think, well, Reddick, I mean, if there's anybody who could, from outside sort of the JGR Hendrick camp, I think it would be Reddick that could jump up there and win this race or finish top 3 or something. They were off. I mean, to get back up to 8th was an accomplishment. Then they were outside the top 10 a decent amount of the day. He seemed, kind of surprised and discouraged a little bit. Said afterwards, yeah, he would have thought this was his best chance to win and lock in, even though he's great at Homestead. So yeah, I think that puts a lot more pressure on him now, because with his lack of playoff points in general going into this round, even though he has an okay day results wise, he's what, minus 16.
Yeah. That's big.
And then you see again, another guy who, I mean, Blaney ran well today. Blaney, he got some stage points. He could have had more, but like he finished 6th. He was up to 4th for a while. I mean, at the track where we're like, oh, the Fords are not really going to be that much of a factor, you'd think. I mean, he ran well, and what does he have to show for it? I mean, he's second to last in points this round. He's minus 17. Is that right? Minus 17.
He is minus 17, correct. Second to last.
Yeah. So, and then Buscher, he didn't get any stage points, and he somehow lost his track position at one point, and they could really never recover. This was a really disappointing day for Buescher, especially because Keselowski, he took 2 tires early and then was able to just keep that track position all day. Ends up finishing 4th and contended for a while. He led 5 different times for 38 laps. And you're thinking, man, I mean, I wonder if RFK would like to have switched those results. Yeah. But now Buescher is in real trouble, because the thing for Buescher and Blaney is, okay, like, it just shows you with Blaney having a solid day. Hey, yeah, you can go get 3 top 10s this round, but it ain't going to do anything.
It ain't going to be enough.
Because you don't have enough playoff points. You've got to go win. So,
and you got to hope that no one behind you jumps up and wins, or anybody that's on the wrong side, which makes it even tougher then, because it's just going to move that line up further.
Yeah, I mean, already you're like, man, we're at a huge, comparatively a huge points deficit. We had a decent day, but we're still down. So I think you're already almost thinking about winning already, and that's I don't know. It's going to be tough for them to point their way in. I would think so. It's interesting how nobody really had a bad day among the playoff drivers, but the stage points and the previous playoff points add up to make that much of a difference. It always seems like almost surprising every year when this happens, but it shouldn't be at this point, but it just is, because you're like, if you told me before this race, oh yeah, Blaney's going to run, mostly top 10 all day and finish 6th, I'd be like, oh, I bet he's going to make a decent amount of ground on the cut line. Nope, he lost ground. So,
well, I mean, when you have a race when all the playoff guys finish top 11, I mean, and that's the other big thing, is that you didn't have anybody have a horrible day and a DNF, and they're in the garage early. A year ago in this race, Christopher Bell got caught up in a wreck, not of his own doing, and was in the garage. And so that you don't have the opportunities for giant point swings, and everybody's just condensed up. So every little battle, every little point is going to mean even more than in this situation. If you're Blaney, I think you did what you had to do today. Obviously, you would have liked to have gone here and picked up more, and you technically did lose ground. I think you lost 7 points today, but you ran on a track where you knew you were going to be at a deficit, and a 1.5-mile intermediate, where your forward hasn't been great this year. You kind of sort of held serve, and maybe now you go to Homestead, you can do that again, and you get a little bit of luck. You're going to need somebody ahead of you to have a bad day, or maybe 2 guys have a bad day. And then it almost feels like, to use one of the gambling pawns, like you're going to put all your chips on the table at Martinsville. Like, that is a track we know we don't got to worry about. It's on an intermediate track. We know we're not going to be at a deficiency there. We've ran well there in the past. We do really well there. We've got an opportunity, but you would have liked to see more. But I think what they did is they made the most of what they had today, and it was hard to expect them to be any more than what it was.
Can I ask you something, a little bit of a shift in topic, if you don't mind? Right. So, there's been a lot of talk. We talked about the schedule. We had a whole podcast about it. We, dissected the championship race, staying at Phoenix and things like that. And everybody goes, well, man, I wish the championship race could move around. And I get this track here in Las Vegas is owned by Speedway Motorsports, but would this not be a very suitable, great place to have the championship race? It's a warm weather track. It checks that box. It's a destination city, checks that box. And absolutely. Now with the next gen, the racing is good, and you're getting a true battle among the top guys. Could there not be some consideration given to making Las Vegas the championship place?
I don't disagree. I mean, you mentioned the reason why Speedway Motorsports, but you push that aside. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have a final host consisting of rotating. This is going to rotate a Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Homestead. And I would throw hypothetically, Fontana is transformed into a short track of some kind. So you'd have those 4 tracks rotating on a yearly basis. I would be all for that. The only thing I would say about Las Vegas is if you do it, the host the final, is it too close to F1 in November? You look at next year, the season's going to end a week later, and so it's really, NASCAR and Formula One are really going to be bumping up. can you have a NASCAR race in Las Vegas 2 weeks before Formula One comes to town? Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't even matter. I don't know. That'd be my only concern. But in terms of everything you mentioned, absolutely, this is a great venue for it. This is a destination track. It's where the best teams typically do well. It puts an onus on driver, aero, engine, pit crews, all of those things we always talk about. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason this couldn't be in that rotation.
Well, except that it's not a NASCAR owned track, which obviously like, and I'm not taking a shot at NASCAR at all. I get that if
Yeah.
they own the tracks that have always been the championship tracks under this playoff system, why would they want to give that to the other track company?
Mhm. But
I mean, they could do some sort of swap or rotation.
yeah, and I will say this too, like, and you've heard this too. A non-NASCAR owned track is going to host the first race of the playoffs next year, which, for a long time it's always kind of been NASCAR's had the first race of the year, they've had the regular season finale, they've had the first race of the play. I mean, so it's conceivable, like, for the greater good of the sport, you just say it doesn't matter who owns the track. It's like we're all in this together, and this again, this is what we need to do to help grow the sport and further it. Then this is what we need to do.
Well, of course, I also wouldn't mind if Homestead just went back to being the annual tradition. And guess what, Jordan?
Yes.
What?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm going to come to Homestead. I'm going to
Yeah.
Homestead.
Yay.
Yay. Well, you don't
Yeah.
seem
Look forward
excited,
to
but
it.
I am.
No, I'm excited. I
I
already
get
knew
to
about it. I can't fake my enthusiasm. I already was enthused once when you told me. So
Okay, well, I'm very enthused because I wasn't planning on going there, and now I get to go, and I haven't been there since the last championship race in 2019.
yeah.
So I'm ready to go back and experience the Homestead magic again and feel all those annual championship feelings. I know it won't be the same, but I'm curious to see what it looks like, what carries over, what the racing is like. It's been too long. I love Homestead, so I'm very excited about that. And I think that we should see another great race, another, straight up race to decide things, strength on strength. I'm all about that at this point. So, you know what? The older I get, I just keep going this way, right? Like the less, kind of craziness and whatever gimmick drama, whatever things fall out of the sky. The older I get, I just want to see the best do their thing. I'm excited to see who will step up next week at Homestead. Maybe it's Larson again. Maybe it's Reddick running the wall. Maybe it's Truex. Maybe somebody else that we don't really expect is able to have a great performance there. So I think it'll be fun either way. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. And then obviously that'll set the stage for Martinsville. And even though the short track stuff hasn't been great, I mean it's still everything on the line. And I think it'll be I feel good about the way things are unfolding in this playoffs at this point. I know it's not, people have said it doesn't have a lot of juice. You don't have a lot of the flashy big names left necessarily, but I just want to see a worthy champion. I people get tired of me saying that, but that's all I'm going for.
All right. Be good. Homestead's a good track. Looking at it last year, you didn't have a lot of playoff guys run the top 10. You only had like three or so looking at it. It sets up well because it does feel like Hamlin, a Truex, Reddick. It is really going to be an opportunity for them to kind of assert themselves and not have to go into Martinsville, up against it either on the points bubble or frankly needing a win. We'll see how it plays out. Homestead, long green flag runs there, man. Got to be sharp on pit road. Got to avoid penalties. We'll see how you don't see a lot of crashes there. It is a driver's track, but people tend to forget of how quickly people get separated there. And it's not a lot of the side by side stuff that we think we tend to associate with Homestead.
Well, obviously I'm fine with that. I think I am anyway. Unless it gets too spread out. All right. Well, speaking of evaluating good races, here we are. Jordan, this is a big one. Talk about crunch time round 3. I have taken the lead 4-3, according to Big Joe Wall, keeping our stats, texted me today, the updated standings. This is a very important one for you, Jordan, because you can't let me go up 5-3 and be on the verge of clinching next week. I was walking through Target the other day thinking, These close. For those of you, we haven't talked about it. We reference it vaguely, but for those of you who are maybe newer to the podcast, we have a bet. Our friend Aaron Bearden suggested that whoever is the winner of the Good Race poll at the end of the playoffs picks the other person's outfit for the Daytona 500. Jordan obviously is scheming to dress me in some bizarre plaid leisure suit that I will have to walk around with in the Daytona garage and be humiliated with, where I'm
You'd
going
be
to
only so lucky to look so good.
yeah, sure. And I will pick out I'm see these pants, Jordan? See these nice looking pants? These are from Target.
Yeah, I know. It's a typical, very Jeff Gluck outfit. You literally can copy and paste what you're going to wear on a week-to-week basis.
It makes it easy to decide what to pack.
I guess. One suitcase, Jeff.
Yeah, yes, one suitcase, and it's a carry-on. I don't pack like an entire 2 suitcases just of shoes like you do.
One suitcase full of shoes.
One suitcase full of shoes. Why would you? You're going to a racetrack. You don't need multiple shoes. You just wear the same sneakers every day. It's very easy. I wear the same hat.
Pride. Have some pride with how you look, man.
I do. I tuck my shirt in. I wear slacks. I don't wear shorts or jeans or something.
You can't wear shorts. We're media members. You can't wear shorts.
Well, I know. I'm saying I take pride. I'm wearing a collar. I wear a polo shirt. I mean, I look professional. So
you look like you're going to a PTA meeting.
Well, you, my friend, will look like the Target dad next year at the Daytona 500 if you don't get this guess right, perhaps. So
yeah. I can't wait.
Now this is a tricky one. Of course, I keep saying that, but this really does feel tricky. Week. I know, but this really, I mean, because the problem is, like, I was obviously, you listen to this entire podcast, you heard that I was happy with the product because I wanted it to be decided straight up. I don't want funny business, and I got that. So I'm like, well, I thought it was good. You had a great finish. You had it naturally play out. It was just good, natural racing. So if it was me, I would vote yes, of course, that it was a good race. But I also recognize that some people are going to be like, I see, that's just boring. Oh my God, what a snooze fest, blah, blah, blah. And I could certainly agree. Nothing really happened in air quotes, right? Like there wasn't some big highlight reel moment that's going to be talked about on Sirius every talk show for the next week, right? So where does that leave the racing? I don't think it's going to be, certainly not in the 80s. Is it as low as in the 60s? I don't know. So I feel like it could be in the 70s, but I'm also worried that, I'm trying to hedge against what you're trying to do because I don't want to wear your leisure suit or whatever. So I may be, shoot. This is really tough. I'm trying to figure out what.
I'm so glad you are going first, by the way.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what you're going to do. I'm trying to trap you into going the direction I want you to go.
During the race, I did not mention today, like where I was thinking about this race and like where good, bad, or indifferent. I purposely refrained from making any comments because I didn't want
like sending me messages like, "Oh, this race is boring" or something. Yeah. I personally think since you're Team Chaos, you said this race is perfectly acceptable. You don't think this race was that great. And so you're going to try to vote somewhat low. So I'm going to try to hedge against that. And I'm going to go 64% and hope that works out for me. I may have made a mistake here, but I'm going to go 64%.
You went 64? Damn. That's
where are you saying that? High or low?
That's way too low. With that finish, people are gonna.
Oh my gosh! I just screwed myself. Dang it!
You did. Yeah.
Oh no! I thought.
Yeah, that finish.
Sure.
So I was sitting here
for sure you were gonna say it was in the 50s or something.
No.
I was gonna try to make you go lower. I wanted to put in the 70s.
No.
Dang it! Oh, I just screwed myself.
That's fine. I'm gonna go 66. I'm gonna hedge early. Hedge. Yeah. That finish alone, people are excited about. So, yeah, I'm gonna go 66. Yeah, I'm not gonna price is right you. So I'm gonna go 66. Leave a little bit of margin there because I'm a nice guy. Jeff has his head in his hands. If you're not watching this on the YouTube video, and you look very despondent.
I feel like I just stayed out on old tires.
You might want to have a conversation with your crew chief. Yeah, 64 is below, man. That finish. We'll
Damn.
see. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, my natural thing would have been like 72, 73,
See,
but
73 was my number. 73 was my number all along.
I thought if I went in the 70s, you would just go lower, and it probably will be in the 60s. So I was trying to trap you into, dang. Oh, wait, they're announcing inspection. Oh,
Hang on.
Ryan Blaney just got disqualified.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Well, that
goodness
changes everything.
gracious. Ryan
Well, if you're
Blaney
Ryan Blaney,
disqualified. They just said on the media side, I'm glad we got this before the end of the podcast. So what does this
yeah,
do
I
here?
mean, well, I mean, what it does is it puts them in a situation now. You don't give a damn about points next 2 weeks. You're not going to be able to point your way in to the championship 4. You need to figure out a way to win at Homestead or win at Martinsville. That's your only path to championship 4. You cannot point your way in. That's a tough day. I mean, he didn't have a great day. We talked about it. He had a solid day. But at least you're 17. You still got a chance here to do some things. Now, though, it opens up the playbook. You're all in. Whatever it takes to win a race the next 2 weeks, that's what you have to do.
My goodness. Well, yeah, I mean, you go from 6th to 36th. So
30 points.
and you're gonna lose, he's gonna lose his stage points too.
Yeah.
Oh, they just updated it. They just updated on the scoring monitor here. Okay. So
he got the 12 got disqualified because the left front shock didn't meet the overall specified link outlined in the NASCAR rule book. So something to do with the left front shock is why Ryan Blaney's car was thrown out of tech.
Okay, and I'm just sorry, I had to pull up my calculator here. So he is 56 points out now.
Yeah.
56 out, it looks like. So that is going to be costly, if that's accurate.
No, I mean it doesn't matter. It
still
could
kind of updating.
It could be 40 points. It doesn't matter what the
you're right. It doesn't, but like we just said earlier, he was probably gonna have to win anyway. I mean, so I don't really think it changed that much, honestly.
I mean, I would much rather be 17 than the other way, and I still think, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's unfortunate. Man, oof, that's a tough one.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Wow. Well, people were, Larson, I think, said, "Oh, I was surprised to see Blaney up there today," but that's yeah, that is unfortunate. I don't know enough about that. I'm sure NASCAR will explain next week or do a show and tell of what exactly that means. But okay, wow. Well, we were about to wrap up the podcast and we got that going.
Yeah.
So glad we did not end right before that. At least we were able to react to that. All right. Well, we will see who wins a good race poll, and Jordan, I will see you next week in Florida.
Sounds great. Look forward to it. See you in Miami.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you. Thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody.